Good evening, everybody. We're live at Dagwood, September the 15th. We're here with special guest Mickey Morandini. Before we get started, I just want to before we get started, just wanted to raise a glass and toast Carl, hoping he gets well. He's going to be back in a few weeks. I'll get him back here, and we miss him. So get well.
Absolutely.
So on that note, let's get started with the show. What are you doing nowadays with the Darren Dalton Foundation? Let's get started there. That's a very important thing that you're doing.
Yeah, you can hear me, right? I'm just an ambassador for the foundation, but obviously Darren was a huge part of my life, especially when I got to the Phillies, and it's kind of like a father figure to me when I first got caught up. So we're just trying to raise awareness and as much money as we can for brain cancer and to help families that are in need, that are going through what Darren went through. So we have a big golf tournament coming up here in October, and it's our biggest fundraiser. We're sold out. We have over, I think, 36 foursomes golfing, and we have a bunch of memorabilia to display and hopefully get some good money for. So we're really excited about it.
Very cool, very cool. And another 93 guy, David West, is dealing with it as well.
Yeah, he just found out a few months ago that he has brain cancer. He did go through the surgery and came out of that pretty good. So I haven't heard an update recently, but he says he's going to beat this thing, and obviously our prayers are with David.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And Mickey, how long has it been now that you've been working with them again?
With the foundation? Yeah. Oh gosh, probably 5 or 6 years now. I believe we've been doing this. Darren had a passion to help people. He always loved helping people, and so we want to live on with Darren and help people that went through, like I said, what Darren went through. He battled it for about 4 or 5 years. He really fought it and battled it, and he wasn't expected really to live as long as he did. So we just want to help as many families as we can.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And John, Mickey did a great job this year. We were talking about right before the show started in Reading with the Phils. So the last few years we've been doing a nice, for the Dalton Foundation, doing a nice game at the stadium for someone that's been on the Phils and had worked with the foundation itself. So we did a John Kruk night. All these nights we've had, Mickey's been there for all of them.
Right.
He's been great to actually be there. And we were joking before. I mean, the line for Mickey to get an autograph and meet him was longer than some of the celebrities we had over the last couple of years. So it never gets old. They love him for sure.
Yeah, Reading was great. I played in Reading in 1989, I believe it was. Hard to believe it's been 30. If I do my math right, 32 years ago. So, but I love Reading, and they do a great job there. And obviously, anytime there's a gig for Darren or something that they're going to do to raise money for Darren, I'm going to try and be there.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tommy Green's another guy that's there all the time.
Yeah, he's always there as well. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very cool. So, a gold medalist.
Yeah, I played in the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea. 84 was the first year. That was out in L.A.
Right.
With McGuire and that group. And then in 88, we won a gold medal. We beat Japan in the championship game in Seoul, Korea. We had some great players on that team. Jim Abbott, Robin Ventura, Tino Martinez, Charles Nagy. We had a bunch of really good pitchers and position players. And, I think we had a roster of 20, and I think maybe 18 of them made it to the big leagues. So it was a really good roster, and it was a fun year. I mean, after my junior year, I got drafted by the Pirates, and I'm from Pittsburgh. So that was a big decision for me. Do I want to try and play for the Olympic team, or do I sign with my hometown team, the Pirates? But I couldn't pass up playing for your country. So I went back to school, turned down the Pirates offer, and in hopes that I would make the Olympic team, and I did. So it turned out to be the right move. I won the gold medal, and then I got drafted by the Phillies, which obviously turned out really good as well. So
it was even a bonus.
It was a bonus. It was a bonus. So that summer we toured the United States. We went to play in a bunch of minor league ballparks, and then we had a chance to go to Italy in play and Japan in play, and then obviously Seoul, Korea. So for a 22-year-old kid who had never left the country or really traveled at all, it was quite an experience.
Right, exactly.
Did you get to watch some of that this year? I mean, baseball was back in the Olympics.
I didn't see any of the baseball on
Yeah.
TV. I did watch some of the Olympics. I love the Olympics. I think it's fun to watch. A lot of those competitions are great. I never understood how like curling could be an Olympic sport
Sure.
and baseball
A
isn't.
little different.
But it's fun to watch. And but I did not see any of the baseball. I don't know how much of that they actually televised. But I believe we won the silver medal.
Silver,
I think Japan
yep.
beat us
Yep.
in the championship
Yes.
game this year. But we're not taking our best players over there, and I don't think it will ever happen anymore with the money that the major league players. I don't think the owners would let it happen.
Get hurt, yeah.
But we battled, and silver medal's not too
Yeah, not bad at all.
Right, exactly. So, I think most of the games were like 6 o'clock in the morning when they were televised here. So what were some of the cool experiences there in Seoul, like the cultural wise that you?
We didn't do too much. We had the Olympic Village there. Gosh, like I said, that was 32 years ago. I don't remember a lot of it, but I do remember taking pictures with some unbelievable athletes like Chris Evert and David Robinson and some of the gymnasts and things like that. I have some great pictures from them being in the Olympic Village and opening ceremonies and things like that. So that I do remember. But we were there to win baseball games,
Right.
basically. So that was our main goal.
Exactly. Well, that's cool. So you want to hit them with a trivia
Yeah, let's
question?
start with a trivia question. We'll start with this one just to kind of get it out of the way. Mickey was looking at it and laughing a little bit earlier. So home runs. How many home runs did Mickey have in his career?
Really? You know this answer?
32?
Oh, my.
Wow. Yeah.
Pretty good.
All
Got it
right.
right
Very
away.
cool.
32 is the answer.
Now, how do you know that?
I just know. I'm a fan.
We've been doing this for a few months now. Everybody catches on the study beforehand.
Yeah.
Now, if I played in CBP instead of the vet, I might have maybe
You'd be a
35 homers. or something like that.
Exactly.
That's good, 32. I hit my career high was 8.
8. Yep.
Solid. I'll take that.
In '98, I believe it was.
Yeah,
Right?
that was with the Cubs. Yep.
So,
So then, Mickey, the first place when you went to the minors, first place was in Spartanburg,
Spartanburg, South
and
Carolina.
then was that the first couple? You moved pretty quickly through the system.
I did. I was pretty lucky. I was a senior out of college, got drafted by the Phillies. I started out in Spartanburg, which was low A ball at the time. And I was fortunate. I got off to a really good start, and that's obviously good for the confidence because you really don't know when you start your professional career kind of where you are and where you rank with other players and things like that. So the good start really helped. And I hit 338 in Spartanburg, and they moved me up to Clearwater, which was high A. And I played well there for about 3 weeks, and then I moved up to Double A that same year and hit about 350 in Double A to end the season. So I turned some heads that first year, so that was good.
And then when you got up to Scranton, you had some success there. You played in the majors before you kind of came back a little bit. As a younger guy, before you sort of catch on at the major league level, do you get deterred? I mean, what is when you have to come back for a little bit when you don't get to play a full season right in Philly? I mean, is that tough for you, or do you just kind of grin and bear it and work your way back?
Well, I played in Scranton up through August, and then they have the September call-ups. And I wasn't supposed to get called up. I had a decent year in AAA, not great. And I wasn't supposed to get called up, so this is actually a pretty funny story. So 3 days before the season ended in 90, Bill Dancy, who was the manager, called me into the office, and I was thinking to myself, why is he calling me in the office, and he sat me down. He said, the Phillies just traded Tommy Herr. You're going to the big leagues. They're playing a doubleheader tonight, and you're starting the second game. So I went from being, my season over in AAA, to now I'm playing a big league game. So obviously there's all kind of emotions. But I get in my car, pack everything up, drive to Philly, and I got there in the middle of the first game, get my uniform. They gave me number 12, and go down into the dugout, and I got a chance to pinch hit late in the first game against a pitcher by the name of Eric Shaw. And I had a good at bat, ran the count to full count, and hit a line drive to Freddie Lynn in left field for an out. And then game went extra innings, so I got a second at bat in the first game against a pitcher named Greg Harris. I got my first big league base hit. Next batter bunted me over, and John Kruk singled me in. So I went from playing in a AAA game to driving to Philly and getting my first big league hit and scoring the winning run. So that was pretty exciting, yeah.
So how was that car ride down here?
Nerve-wracking.
Exactly.
Very nerve-wracking. I remember pulling up and seeing the lights on at that stadium, and I was just nervous as heck and excited, obviously.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Just didn't know what to expect. But getting that first big league hit in your first couple of bats, that really took a lot of the pressure off.
Exactly.
And how was it like playing there? Obviously, there's a lot of stories, but how did you as you first came out, the first time you saw it, as you're there for a little bit, how did that feel?
Well, the good thing was I was used to turf because they had turf in Scranton.
Right.
They had just put in a couple, Scranton was just built a year or two before that, so they had turf there. So I was used to the turf field. Turf field was good for me because I hit a lot of ground balls and line drives, so
Right.
it really was good for my game. But it was tough on your body,
Sure.
the bang in and the dive in and going from turf to grass really took its toll on your legs. But I liked the vet. It was, when there's 50,000 screaming Philly fans there's no place better. And we had that in '93, obviously, so I'm sure we'll talk about it
Absolutely,
later. But that was the loudest ballpark I've ever been in.
Yes. Yeah. Phillies fans do get loud.
Awesome.
We're behind you, and we also
do.
get on you.
That's the great thing about Philly. They get behind you, they support you, and they boo, and that's all right. Everybody boos, and if you're a guy from Philly, you take it and we move on, right?
Exactly.
So, that's what you have to do here, and we were good at it in '93. We just went out and played the game the right way, and I think the fans appreciated that.
Right. And if you have the internal drive yourself, the boo is not going to bother you because you're already mad at yourself, trying to get better anyway. But if you're coddled,
Right.
through your life, then that's somebody that's not going to survive here.
And I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Phillies now, and I boo.
Right.
More often than not right now. But
I was going to say, why would you boo now?
it's part of the game. It really is.
Yeah, exactly. So, managing, how did you like your experiences?
I loved it. That was a goal of mine, was to be a big league manager, and I was on track for it. I managed in Williamsport and Lakewood for 3 years, and then did some other coaching in Reading and Lehigh Valley. I was a bench coach and a hitting coach there, so I really enjoyed it. And then I got to the big leagues as a first base coach and really thought I was on a good path. But then Matt Klintak came into town and Gabe Kapler came into town, and things kind of went downhill from there. So
Another reason why we don't win.
so I became a Phillies team ambassador, and I love the job, and I get to do a lot of neat things with this job. So
A little less pressure.
a little less pressure.
A little less pressure.
A little less pressure for sure, and but meet a lot of great people, and I have fun with it.
Right, exactly. And talk about meeting people. How do you like doing the camps with the kids?
Oh, that's always been my thing. I love working with kids.
Mhm.
I used to do private lessons with hitting and fielding and things like that, and I still do a lot of camps. I do camps up in King of Prussia, and we do camps for ESF, and do a lot of stuff with the RBI program that the
Right.
Phillies go through. So I love working with kids, and we need more kids playing baseball again. They've kind of gone away a little bit from playing baseball, so we got to get the kids back.
Like, yeah, that's something we talk about all the time in Reading, and how do you get kids more involved? You see lacrosse and these other sports that are a little bit more fast paced, and I always talk about baseball embracing the slowness, and it seems like they're trying to compete with it. It's a little bit different, and I think that what makes it stand out. But what would you say to a young kid that's looking to get involved in sports? How would you get them involved in baseball?
Well, I think part of the reason kids struggle with baseball is because, to be honest with you, it's a game of failure.
Failures. Exactly.
And if you're failing as a kid playing the sport, you're not going to want to play that sport anymore. And baseball is one of the toughest sports. Hitting a round baseball with a round bat, obviously, is one of the toughest things you have to do out there. And, you have more success rate in basketball and, like you said, lacrosse and football where there's things the success rate is a lot more or a lot better. So we just got to get these kids outside and let them know that, hey, you can make it out 7 out of 10 times, and
And you're Hall of
you're a
Famer.
Hall of Famer. Yeah. So
Exactly.
but my thing with young kids is play multiple sports. We get so, we want to play one sport and do it all year, and I think a lot of kids get burned out by doing that. So play all kind of sports up until you get to high school. See which ones you're really good at, which ones you enjoy,
Right.
and then you can concentrate on that sport when you get there. But we try and enforce kids to play multiple sports. You're going to get different skill sets from each sport, and then take it from there.
I feel like that's only been over the last 15, 20 years where it's some of these travel teams and things like that. I mean, you talk to some of the older guys, when you were young, I'm sure you played every sport that there is to play, and now they're pretty much playing one sport all year round.
Yeah, when travel ball started out, I did it with my kids. I thought it was a good idea. You're playing better competition. You get to travel around. You're not in the same place all the time. You play different competition. But it's gotten a little out of hand where the organizations and the coaches have taken it just a little too far. Where they're kids are throwing 140 pitches in games and they're throwing nothing but breaking balls and all this kind of stuff. So. We need to be cautious of that. It's weird with me because with Little League, they have all these rules and things, but yet they can throw all these curveballs as a what is it, 11-year-old, 12-year-old?
Yeah, 12.
And that's really not good for a kid's arm that hasn't been fully developed yet. So that's concerning to me. But we got to get these kids back out on the ball field.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Lauren, do we have some questions?
We do. So the big man is checking in. Carl's got a question for Mickey. He wants to know what makes Philly home for you.
I'm going to be honest. Dave Montgomery made Philly home for me. I don't know if you guys remember Dave. He was the president of the team for a long time. He was a huge part of my life. When I first got called up, he kind of took me under his wing and always supported me. A very honest man, a very caring man. Did a lot in the city. He was part of the reason I came back to the organization to coach, and that's what really drew me here to Philly. And I always say I bleed Philly red. I'm a Philly lifer. Hopefully, I can do this ambassador job for a long, long time. I've been in the organization for probably 20, 25 years now, and I want to be like Larry Boa, who's been in the organization forever and.
Philly lifer.
Yeah, has done a lot of good things. So I'm going to say Dave Montgomery is the big reason that I'm here in Philadelphia.
And the nice thing about Dave, anyone that got to talk to him, it was also genuine. I know when he came to the front office in Reading, he'd know your family, he'd really know and care. And it wasn't like an actor or anything. He genuinely cared about who worked for him or involved with the team. So
I retired in 2001. I had rotator cuff issues and I retired, and probably hadn't seen Dave in 5 or 6 years because I was living in Indiana. And next time I saw Dave, he knew exactly. Obviously, he knew my wife. He left my wife, but he knew all my kids' names, and he was amazing. He knew everybody in the organization, from the people that served the food to people in the front office to the players, and he knew everybody's wife's name, he knew everybody's kid's name. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how a lot of players and ex-players say the same thing about Dave Montgomery. How he's Philadelphia, the Phillies, and he's surely missed. And
we have a lot of owners and presidents that probably never even talked to the players.
Right.
Dave cared about his players. He really did. He wanted them to come here. He wanted them to have success, and he wanted them to be comfortable in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone knew another trivia one.
Sure. Hit us with another one.
So we're talking a little bit about Mickey and the Miners. He coached in Reading, but when he was a player, does anyone know what his number was? As a player. Just tougher. It's a tougher one.
Come on, Gino.
If you have my bobblehead, you'll know my number.
We got
Number 12.
12.
Good guess, but wrong.
That was my big league number.
You cheated, and you still got it wrong.
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't even know I was this number when
It's written on the paper.
until I saw my bobblehead.
The Fields don't have it.
They brought a sheet.
I know they always have their cheat sheet, but
It's a study sheet.
it's a study sheet. Not she's a teacher, so that's why it's a study sheet. But does your students get that acceptance too. It's a study sheet.
Open book.
We got it. We have a guess. 8.
There you go.
Correct.
Good
There
job.
you go.
There we go. There we go. Good job. So about the '93 team. So what were your some of the fun moments that or PG?
I mean, first off, coming into that year, if you remember '92, we were awful. We
Last place, yeah.
we were last place. And we really, to be honest, we didn't have a whole lot of talent on the team. And then, Lee Thomas goes out and gets, Danny Jackson and Inky and Izzy and Milt Thompson and those types of players. And all of a sudden, we have a group of players that know how to play the game hard, play the game right. And we come into spring training and, we're picked to come in last place again. And we got off to that 8-1 start. And then all of a sudden, the fans notice and they start coming out and things just snowball from there. And obviously, it was a tremendous year. But, there's a few games that stand out to me that year. We played out on the West Coast, and Milt Thompson caught a grand slam ball, brought it back in, and saved the game. And then the next night, I make a diving play up the middle off a Sharperson line drive and double up Piazza, and we end up winning that game. Mariana Duncan hits the home run off
Mother's
of Lee Smith. And the one game that really stood out was we were playing the Giants, and a left-handed pitcher by the name of Brian Hickerson was pitching, and they were blowing us out 7-0. It was like the 4th inning, and Wes Chamberlain hit an absolute bullet right back at his head, and he just put the glove up and snared it. And he made the mistake of looking in our dugout and spiking the baseball, and we came back and beat him that game, like 9-8 or something like that. So that was one of the games that really stood out. But we won in so many different ways. We had awesome starting pitching. The bullpen was solid. And obviously, our offense was really good. I think we led the league in runs that year. And, we could beat you in so many different ways with walks, with homers, with, back when I played, we actually moved runners.
Exactly.
And bunted and did hit and runs and things like that. So stole bases. And that's the kind of team we were.
The anti-analytic team.
Exactly.
But winners.
Yeah.
That was, Lenny leading off and could beat you with getting on base or hitting home runs himself. And, and plus you had defense all around. And, plus you had 3 platoon situations.
Right.
And, guys were just, giving it up for the team.
And I always say to win a title, you have to have players have career years.
Right.
And Lenny had a career year. Dutch had a career year. Hollins had a career year. Schilling did. Ben Revere did. Terry Mulholland did. We had a lot of guys that had career years that year. Right. That's what you have to do to win ball games.
Was there a certain moment that you sort of knew something was a little bit more special than at the beginning of the year?
I think some of those games I just mentioned.
Yeah.
The West Coast trip was in May, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Duncan home run was fairly early. You start winning ball games like that,
Right.
something special is going on. And like I said, we had great starting pitching. With bullpen was really solid with Anderson, David West, Mitch, and then we brought in what was his name from the Pirates? Roger Mason came in and really pitched well for us. So we had a really good bullpen, and we just had a knack to know how to win ball games.
Yep. And how fitting was it for you to clinch in Pittsburgh?
That was neat.
Being your home.
That was neat.
Your home team.
To beat up on a Pirate team that had been beaten up on us for a number of years with Bonds and Bonilla and Van Slyke and those guys. It was fun to win in Pittsburgh in front of my family and celebrate there. And I remember that last out.
Don Paul
of all people.
Yeah.
Of all people with a ground ball and tramped on first base. But that was pretty exciting.
Right.
I played, end of 90, 91, and 92 in the big leagues, and we were just bad. So to come and, have a chance to go to the playoffs, that was pretty exciting.
Exactly. So any correlations between the 93 team and hopefully a 2022 team with the talent being there, and we have a few more pieces?
Yeah, we're going to have to add some pieces. First off, they're going to have to be able to catch the baseball. They got to really improve their defense. You're not going to win too many championships not being able to catch the baseball. They need some help in the back end of the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I think the bullpen needs to be redone. The bullpen has not been very good. And, we're going to need a rebound here from Didi. We need Bohm to play better. The thing that's really amazing to me is how good Harper's playing, because he's got nobody
protection.
hitting behind him, no protection. And he's just playing. He's playing as well as you could expect. That's the bad part about this, that we're losing ball games, and he's playing as well as he is.
Right, exactly. Especially with JT being down at the moment. And he said there's nobody. Hoskins being out, there's nobody protecting him. And
Right.
I don't know why the analytics must be saying it, but I don't know why the other pitchers are pitching to Harper.
Yeah, I don't know
to
why
give him
they do
anything.
either, but
At this point, kind of almost giving the Bonds treatment.
Right.
Because let the rest of the team beat you at this point.
right. The only reason I think they're pitching to him is because the teams we're playing right now aren't playing for anything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing on the line for them. So I think that's part of it. But I'm sure when we go into Atlanta or we play the Mets, they're going to be very careful with them.
Right, exactly.
Is it fascinating to you, Mickey? Like, you talk about stealing and bunting and all the stuff that you don't really see anymore. Do you think there's going to be a team that just starts doing it again, so it comes back into it? I mean, I know what some of the sheets tell you not to do that anymore, but at some point you would feel like a team does it and it works, and then maybe teams start to do it again.
Well, a few years ago, it was that nobody cared if they struck out. And I think we're starting to see that change, where we're starting to care again if we strike out. So I think eventually we might get back to some sort of moving runners and things like that. I hope we do. For me, the game's a little bit boring right now, with walks and strikeouts and homers. The home run to me is not even very exciting anymore because so many of them hit.
Yeah, it's common anymore.
But nothing's more exciting to me than seeing a triple or seeing a suicide squeeze or a perfectly executed hit and run, or a guy walks, steals second, moves to third on a ground ball and scores on a sac fly. Things like that. That's baseball to me, and you just don't see that enough nowadays. But I hope we get back to some sort of ball like that. Striking out 200 times a year for an individual is not very exciting to me.
How would you like to be hitting against the shift these days?
Oh, I'd bunt every time.
Exactly.
I mean, I could hit the ball the other way.
Right.
That was one of my big things, was be able to hit the ball the other way. Now, why these players don't do it, I don't know. I guess they can't. They're dead pull hitters, and I get that. And but
is it a macho thing?
I don't think so. I just think that they want to hit a home run.
Right.
They want to hit a double. They want to drive the ball. I guess a single or a bunt hit for them is not good enough, I guess. But if I was to redo I'm not a big guy that likes that.
Right.
The shift. But if I had to redo it, I would do it. You can put as many guys on one side as you want, but they got to stay in the infield.
Okay.
You can't put a guy in
right center.
right center or left center or wherever. You got to keep him in the infield.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
I mean, some of these guys now too. I feel like guys that throw 95 to 100 back in the day was not as often. I feel like every guy, if you're not throwing 95, there's something wrong with you.
Well, here's the deal with velocity nowadays. Back when we played, the radar gun showed the ball when it crossed the plate. That was the radar gun. It zoomed it crossing the plate. Nowadays, they do it when it's out of the hand.
Right.
So there's going to be 3 or 4 miles per hour faster out of the hand than when it's crossing the plate. So a guy back in my time throwing 93 would probably be throwing 97 nowadays. So the guns are much different than they used to be. So all these guys that are throwing in the mid-upper 90s, back in our day, they'd probably be throwing 91, 92, 93. So no, there's no question. There's some guys that throw, really, really hard, like the Chapmans of the world and guys like that.
Right.
But, we had those guys back in the day too.
Oh yeah.
You can't tell me Bob Gibson and Nolan Ryan and Tom Seaver and those guys didn't throw the ball in the upper 90s.
Exactly. Well, it's 7:00. We just want to take a moment here to help with our sponsors, State Farm and with Phil Young and City Distilling, Aberson and Dennenberg, and Carl's Cards and Collectibles, of course. Special thanks to Ed and Nikki for helping us here at Dagwoods, for making this all happen.
Thank you very much.
And then we also have Hannah Hand's Irish Pub as well, which is our new location. for road shows as well out in the Delco area. So thanks to all of them for making everything happen. Make sure you take care of the waiters and waitresses and the bartenders for helping with all this great food, because we're all up here hungry and smelling it come by everybody here opening the door. So we can't wait to eat afterwards. So let's get back into maybe another trivia question.
Sure. So let's talk about Mickey's All-Star year. Does anyone know what year that was?
Nope. There you go. Someone's taking the timeout. We got it.
Sorry, what happened?
Sorry,
We already got
the
it.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was already answered, but thanks.
The fields got me in trouble.
Yes, they do. They do. They're troublemakers.
They are.
It's all good. So
Yeah,
About-
95.
yep, 95. You got it right.
95.
What was that like for your first All-Star game and some experiences there?
Yeah, that was obviously very exciting. I wasn't a big goal-oriented guy. I just wanted to go out, play each game hard, and kind of see what happens. But to make an All-Star team in the big league, that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And it was in Texas that year. And just to walk on the field with, Bonds and Bonilla and Biggio and Bagwell and that whole group, it was awesome. Hideo Nomo was the starting pitcher, if you guys remember him. But the great thing about the game was we only had 3 hits that game. They were all solo home runs, and we won 3-2. So that was pretty cool. But the greatest part about that was the night before, MLB rented out an amusement park there just for the ball players.
Wow.
And families. So we got to go to the amusement park and just hang out for a couple hours and ride all the rides and take our kids and things like that. So that was pretty fun. But it was hot. It was hot in Texas. I can remember it was over 100 degrees. And they back in the old ballpark, they had a long hallway to get from the clubhouse to the ball field, and it was smoking hot before we even got to the ball field. But yeah, to be in that locker room with those guys, that was pretty cool.
Right. Now, who was the most that you were the one guy that you were probably most in awe of?
Well, I'm a Barry Bonds fan. I know a lot of people aren't because of steroids, but he was the best player I ever played against, hands down.
Right. Oh yeah.
He was hand-eye coordination and ability to hit a baseball was off the charts. So, and he was actually very nice to me. He wasn't to a lot of people, but I would always, when I played him, go up and say hi to him, and he was very cordial with me. And so Barry Bonds is one of the guys that I was really interested in being in the locker room with, and he was fine.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that's what they say. We see a different side of him, but
Right.
a lot of people do say he's a lot nicer than when he comes off.
Yeah, I mean, I think he went both ways. I mean, probably depend on what he did the night before. If he had a couple bombs, he was nice the next day, and if he struck out a couple times, he was a jerk. But there was no player even close to him ability-wise throughout my career. Nobody was even close.
Right. So over your 11-year career, you had a 989 fielding percentage. How did you not win a Gold Glove?
I'm still wondering that, actually. The biggest year, the most disappointing year for me was 98 with the Cubs. I had 5 errors all year. I had a tremendous offensive year. I had career highs in about 6 or 7 categories that year. My fielding percentage, I believe, was 992 or something like that. And Brett Boone got it, who had made 12 errors that year, but he hit 40 bombs that year. So sometimes they give that award on offense and not so much the defense. So that was the most disappointing year where I really thought I deserved, especially playing at Wrigley Field on that field. Wasn't always a great field to play on. So that was really disappointing. Like I said, I wasn't goal oriented, but to win a Gold Glove was kind of on my radar.
Right. Oh yeah.
And that was the year against the Braves.
Yes, we made the wild card and played the Braves. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but I'm 14th all time at second base and fielding percentage in the history of the game. So Here's a trivia question for you. Who's number one at second base? He's an ex-Philly. Who's number one? No. Nope, not Manny. This is a good trivia question. Placido Polanco is number one in fielding percentage all time at second base.
Yeah, a lot of us think of him the third base when from his time here, but but it's a different game. Like I said, they more popularity contest too, maybe with
Sometimes.
with that, because you had 10, you had 11-year career, and only 1 year you had double-digit errors.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like it was consistent, for your career. So it wasn't like you should have snuck up on somebody that you only.
And the other thing was frustrating that year. '98 was like I said, my best year numbers wise. I was hitting 327 at the All-Star break and didn't make the All-Star team. So that was frustrating too, because I was putting up some really good numbers that year, and the Cubs were winning. We were winning, playing good baseball, and to not get in was pretty disappointing that year.
Yeah, the Cubby fans don't vote like the Phillies fans.
No, they don't.
Tell us a little bit about your Harry Callis experiences, and what he meant to you as well, and the team.
The way he said my name, I still get it when I go out all the time, and which is awesome. I love it. I'm eating dinner in Philly, and everybody comes over. They don't come up to me and say, "Mickey, I love the way you play the game." They always say, "Mickey, I love the way Harry said your name." So, but he kind of put me on the map, really, just by the way he said my name, and I became popular because of Harry. I really believe that, and he would hang on the planes in the back of the road trips when we were flying, and have some beers and talk baseball and sing. And you guys have all seen the video of him coming into the training room and singing High Hopes and things like that. So he was just one of the guys, really, and we all loved him, and he was great. And Richie Ashburn was just as much fun, and he would play cards on the plane with some of the players and coaches. So that was a fun broadcast team right there. They did it right. Sure.
Yeah, he was definitely missed. And I think you guys were probably one of his favorite teams, that '93 team. At least the way obviously he likes all the Phillies teams, but it seemed like you guys.
Well, we were right up his alley because we had a lot of guys that drank on the on the planes and on the buses, and obviously times have changed now where you're not allowed any alcohol on the road and things like that. But Harry liked his cocktail, and he'd like I said, he'd sit in the back of the plane, and he had his spot on that plane, and that was his spot, and he'd sit around the guys and just talk baseball the whole time. He loved what he did.
Right. Oh yeah, you could tell.
And he's obviously one of the greatest broadcasters of all time.
Yeah. So, do you think he had like a little eye for second baseman, since he also had the Chase Utley, you're the man comment as well?
I mean, maybe. But he just the way he dragged my name out and really concentrated on every syllable was pretty awesome. And Dan Baker does a great job too. Dan said my name just as good when I got came up to the plate. So those guys really, like I said, I think they're the main reason I became popular in Philly.
Mickey, some of those newer stadiums that sort of came about after you were done playing, have you looked at any of the newer ones and said, hey, I could have played that a little different than the stadium that was there before? Or, what are your thoughts on some of those?
I mean, I do think I would have hit a lot more home runs. I really do. Right. Not a lot, but more than 32 for sure. But, they're a lot smaller now. But back when I played, I liked the big parks because that was conducive to my game, hitting doubles and triples and, things like that. So maybe the smaller ballparks, my average wouldn't be good. I don't know.
Right.
But I know they're beautiful ballparks. Pittsburgh is beautiful. CBP is beautiful. The one out in San Francisco is awesome. Now, I haven't really seen too much. Texas has a new one, I believe.
Yeah, Texas.
Seattle maybe got a new one or something. But, the ballparks are off the charts now, that's for sure.
Yeah, talking about Texas, you missed out because they're air conditioned now.
Yeah, it's a dome, isn't it? Don't they have a retractable dome there?
Yep.
Retractable domes, I wish every ballpark could do that.
Right,
know,
exactly.
Rainouts, wouldn't have any rainouts, wouldn't have to worry about double headers and things like that. So I'm sure sometime in the future they all will be.
Yeah, you would think, especially in the Northeast, with the weather
Cold,
in
yeah.
September and in April, and games that are
Especially when World Series time comes. If you're in Minnesota or New York or some of the Boston, it's cold.
Right.
And it's not a lot of fun playing, in weather like that for sure.
You
And
don't have to
the
worry
games,
about turf much anymore either.
no, not
other
turf.
than Toronto,
But
maybe.
the games are so important in October. You hate to have weather really play a role in it.
exactly. So with the '93 team, how did Darren Dalton, push that team in
He
ways?
was, I'm sure you've heard it, but he was the best team leader I've ever had. Not much got to the manager that year. If there was issues, it went through Darren.
Right.
If Darren couldn't fix it, it went to the manager. That really didn't happen too often. And Darren did it the right way. If he saw something on the field he didn't like or saw something in the clubhouse he didn't like, he'd come up to you, take you in the back room where the weight room was, have a little sit down with you and correct the problem. And we all had a lot of respect for him. He had been through 8 or 9 knee surgeries.
Right.
He was still playing every day, and he had the most time with the Phillies, and he was really good. He was a really good leader, and he didn't play favorites. It was Schilling or Incaviglia or Hollins or Mitch or anybody. He would if he saw something he didn't like, he'd let you know.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's what you need. It works better coming from a player versus most times.
Absolutely.
That's
One thing getting it from a coach, but when you get it from a fellow player, you know that you probably messed up.
Right.
Do you think that happens as much anymore? I know you coached on a bunch of minor league teams. Do you see that? Do you see younger guys taking that role?
I don't, and I
Right.
wish some guys on the Phillies would take that role. I wish Rhys Hoskins would take that role. I wish Aaron Nola would take that role. Now I know Aaron's a pretty quiet kid and just kind of goes about his business, but I wish those. Especially someone that came up through the system. I think
Right.
those are the guys you need to be leaders on this team because they know how it works, how it's done here in Philadelphia. So I wish those 2 guys would take a little bit more of a leadership role. Now, I haven't been in the clubhouse since COVID hit, so maybe they are. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it to me.
Yeah, I would say I would think a guy like Reese seems like if anybody's doing it,
I hope so.
Reese is probably doing it because he seems to be the guy,
Right.
leading the cheers with everybody.
And I think it's hard for a free agent to come in here and just kind of take charge. It takes some years. Hopefully, Bryce
I was gonna
is
say,
doing it, and JT are starting to be a little more vocal. And I'm sure Didi's. I know Didi's has a reputation of being good in the clubhouse. So hopefully they're getting the right leadership there in that clubhouse. I hope so.
right. Mark, we have a question?
Yeah, the gentleman right here at this table is upset that you never became a manager in Major League Baseball and was hoping you could comment on that and what team you would have liked to manage if you could have.
I'm upset too because I wanted to be manager. I think I would manage any team. I mean, to be a big league manager is pretty awesome, but I would definitely want to manage the Phillies. That's for sure. And I thought I was on pace to do that. The thing nowadays in the big leagues, as far as a coach or someone like that is concerned, is you have to know some people.
Right.
And with all the new coaches coming in, and the GMs are all new and young, I don't know a lot of people. So I might not get that opportunity like I would have in the past. So, like I said, I love the ambassador job. It's fun. It's not stressful at all. I get to play in charity golf tournaments every week.
But if an opportunity like that came open, you're not anti that opportunity, correct?
I don't know. You mean a managing job?
Sure.
Well, I wouldn't be able to. Well, nowadays you can go right to be a manager. I mean, there's
Right.
like 5 or 6 of them that never had any experience and got right into managing. But I would not pass up a direct managing job probably. But to start back in the minor leagues again and have to build my way back up, I don't think I'd want to do that right now.
Now, would you like the way with the analytics and stuff, like running so much of it, like how that's kind of the way a lot of guys get the job without experience?
I mean, I'd look at it. I don't hate analytics. I think there's some good things in analytics. I just think it's too much overall. But I think you have to have
Balance.
a little balance where you manage from the gut a lot of times, but then other times you kind of take the information and use that too. And I think Joe does that. I really do. I think Joe manages from the gut a lot and then uses some of the analytics as well. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know because it seems like I wasn't one for Gabe Kapler myself, but it seems like there's a lot of similarities between Girardi, the way that they were managing the game, and so to me, it almost seems like the analytics are running more of it as far as like the lineups and pulling guys in and out with the pitchers and that kind of stuff.
it may be.
Seems similar.
A lot of times the general managers are running the team more than the managers are
Right.
a lot of times.
Exactly.
So, and that's probably not good for the game. But analytics is big right now, and every sport is using it. And
Right.
businesses are using analytics, and everybody's using the numbers. So it's going to be around for a while. There's no doubt about it. I know the Phillies usually hire about 8 to 10 new analytics people every year, so it's not going to go away anytime soon. But you just have to, use what information you can, and but not get too much. Just because a guy 80% of the time throws a curveball on the first pitch doesn't mean he's throwing a curveball to you. And I think sometimes we get caught up in those types of situations.
Exactly, and then you can kind of almost manage backwards with the analytics if you see a team uses the analytics too much. That he knows you don't want to throw a curveball, like you said, 80% of the time, and now throws a fastball, and he's not going to be able to do something.
And there's some rules changes that I like to see go back to being normal. I don't like the 3-batter minimum for relievers. I don't like the extra inning rule. I don't like 7-inning doubleheaders.
You don't like sticking a guy on second base?
No, I don't.
Well, I think in one of the independent leagues this year, they're moving the mound back like a foot or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
they've talked about moving the mound back. They've talked about you can only throw over to first base a certain number of times, and if you do it a third time, it's a balk if you don't pick them off, and things which completely is going to ruin this game.
Right.
They're talking about mechanical balls and strikes calling, which I know a lot of umpires aren't very good behind the plate, but I like the human element of baseball. I've always liked the human element. I'm not a big replay guy.
Okay.
I like taking the second baseman out. I like running into the catcher. I like the bang calls, and I like the arguments from umpires coming out and kicking the dirt. That's baseball.
is there one of these sort of newer rules or way things are going now that you do embrace that sort of? Well, because a lot of the guys don't, but I wonder if there's something out there that you really do like that was different from when you were playing. If the answer is no, it's no. I'm just wondering.
Not really.
All right.
Not really. I mean, he's trying to speed up the game with all these rules, and the game's not getting any faster.
It's getting slower.
Yeah. So
like you said, and it's changing it for all the.
Well, if you start with a guy at second base and someone gets a hit, then he comes home, and then the next inning someone gets a hit and the guy comes home, it doesn't really make things go much faster.
No, and I like those 17, 18 inning games sometimes.
So does Mitch Williams.
Yeah, exactly.
He gets the hit.
And I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to save the bullpens and keep people healthy, and that's why you can't take the second baseman out and you can't run them. I get that. I do. It's just frustrating for me because I'm an old school guy and I loved watching baseball and you could do those things. And I just think they're making the game boring to me.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely are. Maybe one rule that maybe is good is bring the DH to the National League.
Yeah, I guess. The pitchers are nowhere near capable of bunting and handling the bat like they used to. So it probably is a good idea to get it in here and
plus it makes another job for the player as well.
Exactly. So the DH I'd be fine with the DH. It does take away a lot of the managerial situations late in ball games, but the American League seems to be doing all right with it. So
exactly.
I don't like the fact that the American League pitchers have to come and hit when they haven't picked up a bat all year. That doesn't make sense to me. So if we had some universal stuff here, that'd be fine.
You don't want those guys getting hurt either.
Exactly.
So I think Lauren might have another question.
Yes.
We're big fans. We had season tickets for the 92. Can you talk a little bit about the unassisted triple that you got?
Unassisted triple play? Yeah. part of the reason, don't ever miss a baseball game because you never know what you're going to miss. I mean, I've heard several stories of they didn't go to games and certain things that don't happen too often happen. So if you have tickets to a baseball game, go. You never know what you're gonna miss. But I'm playing in Pittsburgh. The Pirates, 92. They were a really good team. It's when they had Bonds and Benet and Van Slyke and Drabek and all those guys. They were winning, the titles every year for about 3 or 4 years there. And Schilling's on the mound, and they got the first 2 runners on, and Jeff King comes up. Now, normally with runners on first and second and no outs, you usually don't send the base runner just because of a line drive, what happened.
Right.
You usually, try and stay away from a double or triple play. But Leland sent him, and Jeff King hit a bullet up the middle that I dove for, and I was probably 3 or 4 steps from second base, tramped on second, and Barry Bonds was standing right there who was on first base, and I tagged him for the third out. And the whole play lasted probably 4 seconds maybe. And, I really didn't realize the importance of it. I knew, hey, we got out of an inning. It was a tie ball game, it was a big play. I threw the ball up in the air like a dummy. And, I don't think I did. Now, Schilling says he went and grabbed it, but I don't think he did. But what I really think happened was it probably stayed on the mound, and the next, the pitcher came out, threw his warm-ups, and someone probably fouled it off, and someone probably hasn't, doesn't even know it. But, and then after the game, all the reporters came up to me, and I didn't really know why they were coming up to me, but they told me the importance of it. I was the first second baseman to do it in the regular season and the 9th to do it overall. So obviously that was pretty cool. There's only been 15, so it's one of the rarest feats in baseball. Of
You really have time to think about it. You just react.
Yeah, that's a reaction play. Just dive, and you knew they were running, so you knew you at least had the guy
From first.
tramping on second.
Right.
Now, Randy Reddy, the year before, had the same absolute opportunity, but he threw it to first. And the runner was standing right there. He could have had one, too. And then Bruntlett did the assist trip play to end the game. I think it was in 09 or something like that. So, they've been few and far between.
And the Phillies have 2 of them.
2 of them. Should have had 3, yeah.
Yeah. So, any other questions we have out there? It's getting a little late here.
What's he going to ask?
All right, so Mickey, as you saw earlier, my wife and I like food a lot. The last time we were in Clearwater for spring training, now we both like food a lot. Last time we were in Clearwater, we sat the next table over from you at the Island Way Grill.
That's right, we did.
So between the Island Way Grill and Guppy's, which is your favorite restaurant in Clearwater?
I'm probably an Island Way guy.
Yeah.
I like the sushi there, and if I got to go out for it, I'd say Island Way. If I have to go out for a nice dinner, I'm going there probably. The atmosphere is good. I always see Hulk Hogan in there too. So, he comes in there quite often.
So what city on the road did you like to eat? Besides, obviously Philly, what other town did you like?
That's a good question. I wasn't a big eater, you know what I mean? I like a good steak.
Right.
I'm a potato guy, so I would, Morton's or Ruth Chris, places like that. Back in the day, we would go out and eat. But obviously the food in the clubhouses was a little different back in the day than it is now. We would eat some really bad food in the clubhouses back in the day, but now they have all healthy stuff, great meals, cooked. They have chefs. It's
crazy.
A little different world now than it was, 20 years
Just
ago.
over the last couple of years in Reading, starting with guys eating peanut butter and jelly to now, 3 catered meals with dietitians and all that. It's good, but it's just a lot different in a few years.
It was tough back when I was in the minor leagues, and I think it still is fairly tough for minor leagues. I know they're trying to get some things changed down there, but I believe it was $1,200. No, my year in Spartanburg, I made $800 a month. And that was just for the months you played. So it was 6 months. So it was 6 times a day. I made $4,800 that year. And you're responsible for all your gear, buying all your gear.
Wow.
You have to pay rent in the minor leagues. So you try to get as many roommates as you can to keep rent down. You hope you had a vehicle, but you had to, pay for a vehicle and gas and all that stuff. So it was tough in the minor leagues to survive. So you almost had to eat bad. You had to eat the McDonald's and you had to eat the cheap food just because you had to spend the money on something else. Now you got like $8 or $10 when you went on the road for food.
Sure.
So
For the day.
Yeah, for the day. Yeah. So you struggled in the minor league. You couldn't wait to get up to that next level and you get a little bit more money in your pocket. That's for sure.
And you had mentioned how fast you went through the minor leagues. Do you think that was attributed to your Olympic experience?
I think that helped.
Right.
Absolutely. I played against some really good national competition. Korea and Japan and Cuba and all these great international teams. So absolutely that helped. And I played in the Big Ten, which was we weren't that really a great team, but we played some great competition in the Big Ten too. So all that combined, I think, definitely helped.
Now, talking about competition, what was better, your Olympic experience or fantasy camp?
We're going to go with the Olympic experience, even though fantasy camp is awesome.
Watching all us old folks trying to play the game.
Yeah.
Who booed you for not striking out that one time?
You're right. But fantasy camp, you guys have a chance to come down to Phillies fantasy camp, I suggest you do it. It's a great time. You get to play games and hang with 20 ex-Phillies and have some beers and talk Phillies baseball. And it's a 5-day experience. So if you ever get a chance to come down, you'll have a blast down there. But I'm going to go with the Olympic experience with this one.
You're just going to edge it out?
What's that?
Just going to edge it out?
Just edge it out barely, yeah.
Okay. This is making sense in the off season. What are some of the things you like to do now, potentially coming up on some of that stuff as a player? What would you get?
Yeah, my off season would be if you think about it, you play almost 200 games, and that's if you don't make the playoffs. So, and playing on turf, like I said, really took its toll on your body. So I would usually take a month off just to get my head straight, my body healed. And then I'd get back into a workout routine. Now, my workout routine really didn't entail picking up any baseball stuff. Mine was trying to get stronger, get the legs in shape, get my arm in shape. I really didn't pick up a bat till I got to spring training. Nowadays, these guys, they hit baseballs every day in the off season, but that wasn't for me because I didn't want to be tired coming into spring training. I wanted to be fresh. I was a little guy who lost some weight during the year. I mean, I usually come into spring training about 175 or so, and by the end of the year, I was about 160. So I wanted to come in fresh and strong and try and maintain it as long as I can. So I didn't do a lot of baseball stuff in the off season, but mainly it was conditioning and weights and things like that.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool. So we got a couple minutes here. Any last questions for Mickey?
Now that you're an ambassador, how's your golf game?
That's a good question. It's getting better. Now, I never played golf at all until I retired from baseball. Never even picked up a club. Now, I'm naturally left-handed, and I cannot hit a golf ball left-handed, so I taught myself how to play right-handed. So I've been playing golf for the last 3 years pretty continuously. And my game it used to be about 120, and now I have it down to the upper 80s. So we're getting there.
Great.
I still have at times a little bit of a slice, which we're working on, but overall it's come a long way. But being an ambassador has really helped that because I do play in a lot of charity golf tournaments. I probably play in 30-some charity golf tournaments a year, and that has really helped my golf game. But I'm one of those guys that I don't like to stink in anything that I do, so being bad at golf really pushed me to try and become better, and we're getting there. How about your golf? How's your golf game?
I'm left-handed. I had a slight problem too. I spoke to the pro at Carsdale. He told me to take up beach volleyball.
I'll look into that too.
Very cool. Very cool. So we have a couple minutes here. Just want to thank everybody for coming out.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eddie and Nikki, for having us out here again tonight at Dagwoods. Thanks to City Distilling for sponsoring us for the trivia prizes. So all those people that have won trivia prizes, come on up and after the show, and you'll get your pouch for just that. Aberson and Denenberg for sponsoring us as well. Carl's Cards and especially here at Dagwoods. We couldn't do it without you guys. And thank you, Mickey, for
Thank you very much
for coming out. We really appreciate it. Great out.
So you had like 27 appetizers over here. If I take something home, which one you suggest? Can't pinpoint one, right?
The shrimp in their like signature sauce.
Okay. Off the
Best
charts.
appetizers I've ever had.
There you go.
Sounds
You
good.
can't go wrong with anything that's here.
Yeah, it's really smelled and looks good.
That's the problem when you come here. You don't know which one
Once again.
you skip this night out. So
Well, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. It's been
Yep.
fun.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you guys next month. Next month, we'll be here October 13th. Special guest will be Brian Propp. So cigars will be here. Yeah, you'll have the cigars. So, make sure you come out and mark that on your calendars. And then October 13th. And then we will, next week, we have Greg Gross will be at Hannerhan's Irish Pub out in Drexel Hill. So if anybody can venture out that way, please come out. It'll be a good time as well. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.